Hey everyone, and welcome to Ricky's Rockin' Reviews. Today we're going to be talking about Whatever Happened to Joe Rose by ChrisDileo. Now, ChrisDileo is an author who wrote The Hands of Onan. This I read last year, and it was one of my favorite novels that I read last year in 2023. And it's about a self-pleasure cult for men in particular. And it's just a novella, very, very quick read, and it was just bonkers. This is such a really interesting story. I've never read anything like this, so I was super excited to see what we had in store in this novel here. And come to find out, this is a really good follow-up. I was not disappointed, but I also found out that there's this sub-genre, a niche genre called hagsploitation. Whenever you hear that exploitation, you know you're going to get something gritty, something bloody, something kind of grindhousey. And so that's no different here. And it involves hags, old women, possibly witches. So this was a really cool story. And I'm just going to read just this little introduction right here to kind of grab you guys. I was a quiet girl who read books and wrote stories in glittery pink journals. And then one night, I was a young woman with her boyfriend's scrotum in one hand and a pair of red-handed garden shears in the other. Yeah, so it gets so this story gets really intimate, I should say. We have a really interesting setup. We have this girl, her name is Haley Fields, and she is working as a librarian, and she has this friend, this very sultry, seductive friend called Emma. And Emma watches this elderly woman, or she goes and visits her as part of one of her jobs. And she's telling Haley is an aspiring writer. And she says to Haley that she has a favor to ask of her. She wants Haley to go visit this woman that she's been seeing. And she's intriguing her and coaxing her into doing it because she feels like Haley will get a plethora of writing material from this woman. She's like a wellspring of ideas because of all the crazy things that she says, even some sexual things. And so that's enough to entice Haley to go and help out her friend because her friend Emma has something to attend to, so she can't do that part of her job. Haley is also kind of in the middle of her own feminist research, her own feminist personal research. She just loves to read. So she's reading this book called Slaying the Masculine, which is like a kind of a guidebook. And it's kind of a thread that's followed through the entire story. And you'll see a little bit what I mean later on. So she goes and she goes to visit this lady's house. And right away, things are really weird and peculiar. She visits around nighttime and she sees like this crazy looking house. It has a witch's hat. It has this like caped roof, and she sees movement there. And then there's also like this weird house on the side that is probably housing like some psychiatric patients, women, and Haley just kind of assumes this stuff. So when she goes and visits Miss Rose, she finds that Miss Rose is very much a theatrical person. She used to be an actress. She used to be a very famous actress, and she's retired, but she hasn't let go, or any of that theatricality in her has dissipated at all. It hasn't. And there's this like weird, almost ritualistic introduction that she gives herself. I won't spoil anything, but it's kind of weird and ridiculous. But it's one of those things where Haley is kind of like taken aback, but she can't look away from anything that's going on with Miss Rose. And she quickly learns that Miss Rose needs her because Miss Rose wants to put on this play of her own to kind of revitalize her fame at this near end of her life. And her play is called Whatever Happened to Helga the Hag. So one of the things that we see in this relationship that's forming is that Miss Rose is trying to bring out the best in Haley's writing. And in order to do so, she asks Haley to read her stories. And that was one of my favorite sequences here. Some of my favorite parts are when Haley is reading her stories that she has written as an aspiring author. She submits them to journals and stuff like that, and those were riveting, and that's where the real horror starts, because these stories all involve sexual assault of a minor, and for lack of better words, these stories are a self-insert for Haley, where she's kind of getting rid of these demons through these stories that she's writing. And meanwhile, while all this is going on, we have the Gelder, someone who is going around and castrating all the purported sexual abusers that live in the area in that town. And they're being found, mutilated, castrated. So as the story progresses, these writing sessions between Haley and Joe Rose and what's happening with the Gelder start to intersect. And it becomes, just like this heart-pounding thriller. One of the things that is prominent here is Haley and her friends' love for 70s horror movies and stuff like that, and that kind of hagsploitation stuff. And it starts coming through, it starts becoming part of her actual reality, based on everything that's going on, without giving any spoilers. I really enjoyed this story, especially the moments where we start getting more into that castration element with the Gelder and what's going on there. It was just like totally horrifying, especially as a man. I feel like I at moments, there was moments where I almost felt like those garden shears were on my own manhood, and just the way that DiLeo describes those scenes. And then he's like, what he does is he starts wrenching up the tension, and it's almost unbearable. There are moments where these crazy things are going on, and he's sprinkling a little bit of more drama and theatricality in there, and just like prolonging these moments where some bad things can happen to some people's genitals, and it's just it was hard to read, but in the best way. And it was such a page turner. It definitely delivers on what it set out to do. But I also really enjoyed some other key factors that I was not expecting. So one of these things that I really loved is that, which I didn't know, is that DiLeo is a teacher. He's an English teacher, and he is able to thread his love for Shakespeare into this story seamlessly. Lady Macbeth is even mentioned here in several instances, and I thought it was just really, really well done. He is able to introduce this idea where, of course, men have this inherent quality where we can become very dangerous, especially towards women. But he brings up this kind of idea where can women be as dangerous as men? And we kind of explore that. So it's kind of this like very well-balanced thing. It's a cautionary tale for men and women. The story was still very entertaining, but at the same time, he was saying really important things that should be said. So like I was saying, the Macbeth stuff, Lady Macbeth stuff was really, really cool, especially with the way that the idea of witches are presented, and Lady Macbeth as kind of like a heroic figure for some of the crazy people in this story. I thought it was really, really well done. And just as an aside, kind of, I just really love it when an author is able to introduce a story with quotes from like other works of fiction or, songs, anything like that. I think that really helps set the tone and flavor. So one of the things here is one of Lady Macbeth's lines, which says, "Come, you spirits that tend on mortal thoughts, unsex me here and fill me from the crown to the toe, top full of direst cruelty." And so what she's saying there, what she means is she's just kind of asking for the strength and for her femininity to wash away so that she's able to carry out cruelty and murder and stuff like that, which is typically associated with men. So like I said, that's one of the things that is presented here. Who's more dangerous, men or women, or who's more capable of doing malicious things to each other. So one really good thing about the end of this book is that when we're finished with the story, there's an author's note and acknowledgement section, which was very well done and I thought was really important to have included here. One aspect is the author, ChrisDileo, is talking about his love for horror and films and where he got that from. As like kind of an anecdote about how he stumbled upon horror movies and stuff that his dad left behind. It was very touching, and I did really see that come across in his story, which is really, really cool, especially this movie he makes up in the book that the characters watch called Cabin Girls. But also he goes into speaking about these horrific things that he has heard from his students, particularly like female students, about what they had gone through as far as like sexual abuse and stuff like that, which is just horrible. That stuff is happening all the time, and he kind of wanted to give them a voice. He calls it kind of like writing is an act of empathy. I thought he wrote this story through the female's perspective just as well as he possibly could. I thought it was very, very, it felt very organic. This insight that he was getting from his students, all that to say, everything was handled very deftly, I believe. And since this is a book, one of the most important things, of course, is that it remains entertaining, and I feel like it's something very worthwhile reading. You get so much. You get the bloody exploitation kind of story, and you get a meaningful reflection on some really hardcore issues, and then you have fun at the same time, and you get a little bit of that theatricality and little injection of Shakespeare and Lady Macbeth, which made me go and look back at my HRW Classics Library Edition, and also the Harvard Classics Edition, which is collecting all these other Shakespeare stuff, which was cool to get back into. So check it out. And I just want to say, you guys should follow me on Instagram, because I post a lot there. You get to see what I'm reading, what's coming down the pike. For every video review that I do, I also do a written review, and the written reviews usually come out first. So you can check them out there on Instagram, and you can also interact with me there. And if you guys could comment down below, what are some of your favorite horror novels that have come out this year, or thrillers or anything like that? And do you plan on reading this? And so if you guys would be so kind as to comment down below something you thought that was interesting about this review, or any questions you may have for the author. Also, what are some of your favorite horror stories that you've read this year? Hit the like button for me, and also subscribe. That would be really great. And I'll catch you guys on the next one. Thank you.